Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing my full review on Disney's Contemporary Resort. I recently stayed there on my solo mom and toddler Disney trip, which was so fun by the way, but I will have those vlogs linked down below if you want to check out our time there. But today we are going to be talking all about the newly remodeled rooms at the Contemporary, dining, transportation, amenities, of course, if I think this resort is worth it, and then we will wrap it up and I'm going to answer some of your questions that you submitted about this resort over on Instagram. So we've got a lot to cover. Let's go ahead and dive in. All right, let's start with a little backstory about this resort. So Disney's Contemporary Resort was one of the original Walt Disney World resorts that opened in 1971, and you can definitely feel that as you are walking around this resort. It is not gonna have the same vibe as the Riviera or Grand Destino Tower, some of these newer, updated, really fancy hotels. It has a very nostalgic feel to it, and that's really what you are paying for at the Contemporary. But I do think they've done an excellent job of keeping this resort feeling fresh and contemporary and modern. So let's get started with talking about the rooms. So the rooms at the Contemporary were just recently remodeled in 2022, and they are themed to The Incredibles. This has been a little controversial because when you think, at least for me, when I think of a Pixar themed room, I'm thinking of something that belongs in a value resort, not something that belongs in a deluxe resort. So I was a little hesitant to see what these rooms were gonna feel like staying at this resort. And I should add too that we stayed in the garden wing, which was a part of the original Contemporary Resort, but it's not in the main building. And I'll explain a little bit more later on about the garden wing. But basically, when you exit out the back of the main building of the Contemporary, that main tower, you walk under this little covered walkway off to a separate building. It's about a 1-minute walk under this covered walkway, maybe 2 minutes, and it has additional rooms not in the main building. But same resort, same rooms, they've had the same renovations done, it's just a separate room category. So that is the room category that we stayed in. The only difference between the rooms in the garden wing and the main tower, and this is so minor, is that the garden wing rooms are fully carpeted and it's brand new carpet, so it's really nice, but the rooms in the main tower have that hardwood floor with a carpet underneath the bed. So not sure why there's that small difference, but that is one small thing that differentiates the main tower rooms from the garden wing rooms. Another thing to note about the garden wing rooms, if you are staying on floor 2 or 3, is that you do not have a balcony. So first floor has a patio, but second and third floor does not have a balcony. You just have a sliding door that opens up where you can get some fresh air, and it just has a railing, but there's nowhere for you to walk out onto. So that's really the only difference, the carpet and the balcony on floor 2 and 3. But other than that, these rooms are identical, and there's really nothing different about staying in the garden wing. I mean, of course you're not in the main building, but other than that, you're at the same resort, it's the same room, the same setup, same furnishings, like same everything. It's just a different room category. But these rooms are so spacious, and I'll have my full room tour video linked down below if you want to check it out and get a more detailed look into the new updated rooms. But I was pleasantly surprised, and although, like I mentioned, it does have this Incredibles theming to it, you'll find some Incredibles touches on the wall when you open up the closet door. There's a couple little artwork pieces around the room, some pillows on the bedding, maybe the curtains. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that resembles the Incredibles. By the coffee station, you have some Incredibles theming near the Keurig machine. But other than that, the theming felt very minimal and tasteful. So it didn't feel over the top or tacky. I think that was the thing I was afraid of, that it would feel tacky, like you're paying for this amazing deluxe resort room and you end up with this really tacky theme to it, but it didn't feel that way at all. At least in my opinion, I think they did a really great job of keeping it minimal and still tasteful. So if you're not a fan of the Incredibles theme going on here, you can just hide the pillows and keep the closet door shut, and you really wouldn't know that it's an Incredibles themed room other than those minor things. But I think they did a great job of keeping the room feeling updated and fresh. It feels really bright and airy. I think that's one thing I loved most about it. A lot of the Disney resorts that have not been updated in a little while feel dark, and it was just really nice to have a lot of bright colors and a lot of light added into the room. So I really, really enjoyed it, and I was really impressed, to be honest. Another thing to note about these rooms after the recent remodel is that the bathtubs have been replaced with a walk-in shower. So especially if you have little ones that rely on taking a bath in a bathtub, that's something to consider. I do believe there are a handful of rooms at this resort that still have a bathtub option. So if that's important to you, I would make sure to put in a request and call the resort and make sure that you are at least requesting a room with a bathtub. I know that room requests are never guaranteed, but it is something to note that most likely you will end up in a room with just a walk-in shower. So something to consider if you need a bathtub and you need that guaranteed. This may not be the best resort for that, so something to be aware of. All right, let's talk about dining, because there are quite a few fantastic dining options here. So of course you have California Grill at the very top of the main building, which is such an incredible experience. So you take this private elevator up to the top of the resort. This is a signature meal, and currently they are offering a prix dinner menu. Of course that could change at any time, but right now that's what their dinner option looks like. And you guys, this is such a great restaurant. And the best part is that you have this outdoor terrace area where you can go out and watch the fireworks from the very top of the Contemporary. It is such a neat view. If you have never watched the fireworks anywhere other than Main Street or right in front of the castle, this is a really cool experience. One really neat thing they do here, let's say you have a 5 p.m. dinner reservation, and by 6:30, 7 o'clock, you have wrapped it up, you're done with dinner, but fireworks aren't until 9 p.m. What you can do is hang on to your dinner receipt, and later that night come back and show the cast member your receipt down at the host stand, and they will allow you to go back up to the restaurant to watch the fireworks from California Grill. So really cool experience, and you do not have to be staying at this resort to enjoy California Grill and that perk of being able to go back up with your receipt later on that night. It is only valid the night of your dinner, so you couldn't take that receipt multiple nights, you know, throughout your vacation or anything like that. But really cool perk of eating at this restaurant, and we have really enjoyed our time there the couple of times that we've had dinner there. Another dining option here, and this one can be challenging to get a reservation at, is Chef Mickey's. Now this restaurant is located right in the middle of the resort, so you have a lot going on. You can see the monorails going through the resort. I mean, it's really cool. I personally have yet to try Chef Mickey's, so I can't give a review on it. I have heard mixed things, I will say that. Some people love it, some people aren't a fan, so it may be worth trying it out. But I am eager to experience this one because this is a character meal, and it is a fixed price buffet for breakfast and dinner. But if you cannot get a reservation at Chef Mickey's, or even California Grill can be challenging to get into as well. There is also Steakhouse 71, which is on the lower level of the lobby, and this, you guys, is one of my favorite restaurants in all of Walt Disney World. I love this so much. They serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the food here for every single meal is so good. The service has always been fantastic every time we go. One perk about staying at the Contemporary with Steakhouse 71 is that if you are a resort guest, you can place a to-go order for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at this restaurant. So we actually did this a couple of times where I got my lunch to go, took it back to the room, and let my toddler nap in our room, and I ate lunch. I got the salmon from Steakhouse 71 and ate it back in our room. It was so great. Another night we did their dinner to go. I got a filet to go back in the room, and my toddler and I watched a movie. She had the Steakhouse 71 mac and cheese. I had my filet. I mean, it was so great. And of course, if you can't get into Chef Mickey's for breakfast, Steakhouse 71 breakfast usually has pretty good availability, or again, you could get it to go and enjoy your breakfast somewhere else on the property. So really, really great restaurant, you guys, and I need to stop talking about it because I don't want that many people to know how great it is. That way I can keep getting reservations here. It's amazing. And if you're looking for something other than a sit-down restaurant, there's also Contempo Cafe, which is the quick service location at the Contemporary. They have really just your standard quick service food, and the couple of times I've eaten there, it's been just fine. I wouldn't say it's anything to go out of your way for, but it's a really solid quick service option if you're staying at the Contemporary or you're having a Magic Kingdom day and you just want to kind of take a midday break and grab some lunch and hang out at a resort. So really great option, and it is fun to sit in the middle of the resort and watch the monorail go by, and so it's really cool. And right next door to Contempo Cafe is the lounge bar area. They have a pretty extensive cocktail menu as well as spirits list, so great place to hang out. And I've even snagged a table here and not ordered a drink, and we were just able to kind of enjoy the view, and we could see the castle and Seven Seas Lagoon, and look out and you can see the Grand Floridian and the Polynesian. So really great spot if you're looking to just relax or grab a drink. Highly, highly recommend. And lastly, in our dining category is the Sandbar down by the pool. And this is very much your standard pool food. I believe they have a salad, a burger, and a hot dog, and I think that's it. So very basic pool food, but if you are needing something quick, grab and go down by the pool, they do offer a few items here, as well as their full bar option down there as well. But if you are having a pool day, they do have a few things down at the Sandbar, and it's a great option if you need something quick. Okay, let's talk about transportation, because this is the reason people pay the big bucks to stay at the Contemporary. This is why we stayed there, and I'm gonna break it down for you and share all of the transportation perks and options you have when you're staying at this resort. Starting out, the best perk, hands down, of staying at this resort is the walking path over to Magic Kingdom. Depending on your pace, it'll take you about 5 or 10 minutes, and you have your own security entrance into Magic Kingdom, and it's just amazing. I loved having the ability to walk right out of our room straight to Magic Kingdom from the garden wing. I want to say it was about a 10 to 15 minute walk, and I loved being able to come back for nap time, and then we were back in the park in the afternoon, and then at the end of the night, you have this mass exodus over to the monorails and the boats and the buses, and you bypass all of that and you can just walk straight back to the Contemporary. It was incredible. Your next transportation option at the Contemporary is, of course, the monorail, and this is another huge perk of staying here. So in addition to the walking path, you can also choose to take the monorail over to Magic Kingdom. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that you will have to stop first at the TTC, then at the Polynesian, and then at the Grand Floridian, and then you will get to the Magic Kingdom. So it's a little bit of a trek, and I personally would just choose to walk to Magic Kingdom as compared to taking the monorail all the way around. Now, if you're staying at the Polynesian or the Grand Floridian, it feels a little bit different, but Contemporary, you have to do that full loop all the way around, make all these stops. So my personal recommendation is to just walk if you are headed to Magic Kingdom, but you do have the option of getting on the monorail. The flip side to that is that if you are leaving Magic Kingdom and going back to the Contemporary, you are the first stop off the monorail. So you get a little bit of both worlds there, but I still recommend just walking. I think it'll be quicker either way, especially at the end of the night if you're leaving Magic Kingdom. I think when you're considering the crowds and the wait times, everybody's headed to the monorail to go back to their resort. I think you're still better off just walking. But again, it's an option, and you really can't beat being on the monorail. Once you experience it, you will feel so spoiled. The other perk of the monorail is having direct access to Epcot and having that transportation option. So especially coming from the Contemporary, you go straight to the TTC. You do have to exit that monorail, and you will get into a separate monorail line, and that will take you directly to Epcot. It's about a 15-minute ride, including that monorail transfer, but huge perk of the Contemporary having direct access to Epcot and being dropped off right at the front of the park. Really nice that the monorail can take you to Epcot and Magic Kingdom, and you can resort hop. I mean, being on that monorail loop is so valuable, and I just have fallen in love with it, especially with a toddler. You don't have to break down your stroller. I mean, I'm a huge fan. And now we are left with Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom. So for those two parks, your only option is taking a bus. And then of course, if the monorail is down for whatever reason, they will have a bus option over to Epcot. And then for Magic Kingdom, your best option is always gonna be to walk. Another really nice perk of being so close to Magic Kingdom is that, let's say you have a breakfast reservation at Topolino's, you can actually walk over and take a bus from Magic Kingdom to the Riviera or whatever resort you're trying to head to. So that is one really nice perk of being, 5-8 minutes away from these buses, and you can go to any resort you want, and then you just take that bus directly back to Magic Kingdom, and you're a 5 to 8 minute walk back to your resort. So that's another transportation perk that not a lot of people mention when it comes to the Contemporary, so love that as well. And then there used to be boat transportation over to the Wilderness Lodge and Fort Wilderness. That currently is not running. I don't know if they will bring that back, but it is something to be aware of that they may bring back in the future. I'm not sure, but it was a really great option if you had a dinner reservation over at Whispering Canyon, or you were doing breakfast over at Fort Wilderness. Being able to take a boat directly from the Contemporary over to Wilderness Lodge and Fort Wilderness, that was really nice, but they have done away with that, and it may return at some point, but I'm just not sure. So keep it in mind and just double check if you are staying there in the future. Moving on, let's talk about the amenities at this resort. So I don't have a ton to share in this category, but I will share a couple of things. So when it comes to the pools, you do have 2 different pool options. You have more of a quiet, smaller pool. It actually extends out over Bay Lake, which is really cool, and it tends to be, again, pretty quiet. It just doesn't draw a huge crowd. The main activity is near the main pool, where you have the water slide and these really fun little fountain features, and it's a really pretty pool. And then you have a really fun kids splash pad area. Go check out my September Disney trip vlogs. We did a full pool evening here, and it was so much fun. So they have a really great pool, especially if you have little ones and small kids with the slide. I mean, it's a really great pool. I wouldn't say this is one of the best pools at Disney by any means, but it is a really fun pool, especially with the splash pad. There's very little, if any, Disney theming here, but again, it's a fun pool and it's very nostalgic. So you kind of have to value the nostalgia piece over the theming piece. And, I'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute, but back to the amenities. So you do have the 2 pools down at the back of the resort overlooking Bay Lake. And then you do have a standard gym in the main tower building. And then there's also quite a few gift shop options. And in one of the gift shops, they actually have, it's almost like a mini confectionery. So all of the baked goods and caramel apples and Mickey Rice Krispie treats and cupcakes, all of that you would find at the confectionery at Magic Kingdom, they actually have all of those same items here in this gift shop. There's also another gift shop area that's almost like a convenience store. So they have grocery items and bottles of wine, toiletry items, over-the-counter medication, anything that you may have forgotten at home, swim diapers, refrigerated food and breakfast items, and all kinds of stuff. So love that they have that as an option here, but that's about it for resort amenities. Other than the pools, a standard gym, the gift shops, I mean, there's not a ton else offered at this resort. I think the main draw here is that you are near Magic Kingdom. You're right on the monorail. That is the amenity in and of itself at this resort. All right, now let's talk about if I think this resort is worth it, and then we'll get into answering some of your questions that you had over on Instagram. Here are my honest, unfiltered thoughts about the Contemporary. So this resort was not my favorite resort, and I went into our most recent trip here knowing that it wouldn't be my favorite. I think because we've come so many times for breakfast at Steakhouse 71 or dinner at California Grill. Like, I've been several times, we've hung out at this resort a handful of times, and so I knew the feel and the vibe of this resort, and it's just not particularly my style, but I can see why some people would love it, why some people come here every year and they don't stay anywhere else. They only stay at the Contemporary. Like, I get it, but it's just not for me. And I think the number one reason is that it doesn't hold this really special Disney memory for me. I don't know if that makes sense, but there are just other resorts that give me like the warm and fuzzies. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but the Contemporary just did not do that for me. It has a very sterile feel to it, especially, I mean, obviously looking at the outside of the building, I mean, you're looking at something that was built in 1971. It has that style. So, you know, this was cutting edge in 1971. You know, but as you're pulling up to the building now, it doesn't have this cozy, I'm home kind of feel like some other resorts do for me. And even though this was a really special trip, it just didn't have the feel, that Disney feel I was looking for, which is so funny because it is the original Disney resort. You have the monorail going through the middle of the concourse area. I mean, it's a really cool resort. You have the Mary Blair artwork, the original artwork, and you know, so lots of history here. And I do love that piece of it. I love the Disney history. I love looking at the photos down as you're walking into Steakhouse 71. But other than that, it just didn't do it for me. I don't know how else to explain it. It just didn't tug at my heartstrings like some of the other Disney resorts have on trips past. I will say I did enjoy the room though, more than I thought I would. And even though I'm not the biggest Incredibles fan, and I'm still not quite sure why they chose that theming and the direction they were going with that, you know, apart from that, I really did love the room though. But the big money question, do I think it's worth the price tag? So I'll just go ahead and share. We booked our room here during the Disney Plus 25% off discount in the Garden Wing. So those rooms are significantly cheaper than staying in the main tower. I paid $350 a night with the discount to stay here. I felt really good about that price, and I think especially considering what you get and the location and knowing that we were right on the monorail, I thought that price was worth it. But I'm not sure I would have paid the $600, $700, $800 a night that these standard rooms can sometimes go for year round, especially when you get into the holidays. You're looking at $1,000 a night for a theme park view room here, and personally I just think that's completely absurd. I can't imagine spending $1,000 a night on a standard hotel room, even with a theme park view. I just can't imagine paying more than $350, maybe $400 a night for a room here. Again, I know that you have that really amazing walking path over to Magic Kingdom and you're right on the monorail. I mean, there is some incredible perks about staying here. So is it worth it? Would I stay here again? I don't think so. Unless I can find a killer deal for a room here, I just can't see myself spending that kind of money to stay at this resort again. If I'm gonna spend that kind of money, it's gonna be at the Grand Floridian or the Polynesian. I just enjoy the atmosphere over there a little bit more, and then you still have the same location of being right on the monorail, especially at the Grand Floridian. You can just walk right over to Magic Kingdom now. The walk is a little bit longer, but you still have your own walkway. I think this is the first time that I've said that about a deluxe resort in one of these resort reviews. Normally I'm like, only you can answer that question. Like, oh, I don't know. But in this one, you guys, I just can't see myself staying here again unless I can find some incredible discount and, you know, we find a room here for like $300 a night. But unless that's the case, there's just other resorts that I enjoy more and that I'd be willing to pay more for. So while I am thankful that we were at this resort for this specific trip with me and my toddler, it was really nice being able to walk over to Magic Kingdom and walk right back to our room at the end of the night. I think it was the perfect fit for this specific trip, but in the future, I would probably be willing to spend that kind of money over to stay at the Grand Floridian instead. And that's just that resort kind of tugs on my heartstrings more than the Contemporary does. So there's my very honest review of the Contemporary. I think if you are planning to spend a lot of time at Magic Kingdom, you really value the nostalgic feel of Disney World and one of the original 1971 resorts, and if you really appreciate and enjoy very subtle Disney theming, this may be a great fit for you. I think based on what the resort has to offer and the minimal theming that this resort has, I can see why a lot of people would be drawn to that. So there's my thoughts on this resort. So I'm gonna end with answering a few questions that you guys submitted over on Instagram. And if you are not following me over on Instagram, I will have my handle linked down below. I would love for you to follow along. But a few of these questions I feel like I answered in the first portion of this video. So I'm gonna scroll through and see if there's anything else that we didn't touch on. Okay, this first question, did you have to wait long for elevators at this resort? So because we stayed in the garden wing, I really didn't have to utilize the elevators in the main building all that much, other than a couple of times that we did use the monorail or we went up for Contempo Cafe. But other than that, we didn't really utilize the elevators, but I have heard it can get backed up just because there's only three elevators on the main floor. So if you do have strollers, you know, I mean, those elevators are pretty small and only so many people can fit in them. So the lines can get backed up, especially at the end of the night when everyone's coming back from the park. So something to consider, you know, obviously if you don't have a stroller or you're not in need of the elevator, you do have the escalator option. So something to keep in mind. Next, do you know if you stay in this building if you are DVC and using points? So the Contemporary is a standard Disney hotel. You cannot use DVC points to stay here, but there is Bay Lake Tower, which is the Disney Vacation Club resort portion of the Contemporary right next door. So that would be the DVC side of the Contemporary. You get all of the same amenities and perks as the Contemporary. You're just in a separate building right next door, and that's where you can use DVC points to stay there, or you can buy a cash room there as well. How is the room size compared to other Disney resorts? And I know that I mentioned it was very spacious, and I don't have the exact square footage number, but it was definitely larger than other moderate resorts, definitely value resorts, and even other deluxe resorts. I think because this resort was one of the original Disney resorts in 1971, they just made the rooms slightly larger than they do now, and you can definitely feel it. So very spacious, more than enough room for a family of 5, which is how many people this room sleeps. You have that 5th sleeper sofa option, and yeah, lots of space. Next is, we'll be there this week. My perception is that it's bland and boring. Your thoughts? So I know I mentioned that this resort has very minimal Disney theming, but they've done an excellent job of updating the resort and keeping it feeling fresh and nice. I mean, the furnishings, the artwork, everything about it is beautiful. I mean, truly. And I think you have to go into your stay knowing that you're not going for this over-the-top Disney theme. You're really going for that nostalgic piece of being at the Contemporary, and that's really what you have to value over the Disney theming or even the wow factor that a lot of other deluxe resorts offer, like the Riviera, the Grand Floridian, even the Wilderness Lodge. You know, you walk into the lobby and it's just this like, oh wow, like we're at Disney. And I didn't quite get that feeling walking into the Contemporary, but you kind of have to know that the monorail is part of the theming of this resort. Like, it's the monorail resort. It runs right through the middle, and that is the theme of the resort. Again, I think just go into your time there knowing that it's not gonna be this wow factor of Disney theming, but you're going for the nostalgic element of being at one of the original Disney World resorts. Explain the room categories there. Garden wing, I think, is one, etc. So yes, I mentioned the garden wing and kind of explained earlier in the video that we were in the garden wing, which is a separate building off to the side. You have your own covered walkway over there. It's just a couple of minutes of a walk off to the side, but the room categories here are pretty simple. You have a standard room, which is going to face Bay Lake, and then you have a theme park view, which obviously faces Magic Kingdom, and then you have a garden view and a standard view over in the garden wing. And then of course you have club level and presidential suites, and you know, I mean, it kind of goes up from there, but those are the different room categories, and I really enjoyed the garden wing, and that kind of ties into this next question. This one is, did you find that the garden wing was too far from the action? And I actually kind of liked that it was a little off on its own. It's very private, very quiet, and especially if you have a garden view, I believe there's only a handful of standard views. But with a garden view, you're either facing the pool or the water area. So again, very private, very peaceful and quiet. I really enjoyed it, especially with a toddler who is napping in the afternoon. It just felt very quiet, and it didn't feel too far away. I mean, again, it was a 2-minute walk over to the main building, and I personally really enjoyed it. And I didn't have to mess with the elevators going up and down. I honestly preferred being in the garden wing. Obviously, I've never stayed in the main building, so I don't know. I can't really compare which one I prefer, but I did enjoy the garden wing, and I didn't feel like it was too far away or anything like that. It felt very private, but yet you're still at the Contemporary. And anyway, it felt like a good balance of being private, but yet you're still at the Contemporary, if that makes sense. Okay, and I think that's it. Everything else, I'm pretty sure I answered earlier on in the video. So I hope this was helpful, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts and my review on the Contemporary Resort. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions. Have you stayed here before? What are your thoughts on this resort? I know a lot of people have very strong feelings about resorts that they love or don't love, so let me know down below in the comments. But make sure that you are subscribed if you are not already. I would love for you to stick around for more Disney planning content and reviews and tips and tricks and all kinds of fun Disney videos. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.